Greetings. My name is Professor Mark Gura. The following expert conversation is from the class I teach online for the Graduate School of Technology at Touro University. The course is titled Technology Integration for School Leaders. Once a semester, I invite into the class a colleague with something special to share with my students, who, by the way, are all in the master's program in instructional technology. This qualifies them for the New York State Education Department's Certificate for Teachers as School Technology Specialist. My students are in-service teachers, and while the course is taken by teachers pre-K through 12th grade, this semester they happen by chance to all be elementary grade teachers. I tailor the course to fit the perspective and needs of my students, and so this semester I invited in as guest Dr. Reissman, an instructional and literacy coach. The focus of what turned out to be an inspiring conversation is her work in integrating technology and visual art into literacy, SEL, and social studies activities. And in particular, her wonderful project, which I gave the name for this conversation, From Shoebox to Digital Soapbox. Here we go. Dr. Reesman, you're here. How are you this evening?
I'm just fine. I actually had a wonderful day working on the project we're going to be talking about.
Dr. Reesman is a colleague and a friend who I've known for quite a while. And in the beginning, she was something of a mentor to me.
Well, I think we've always been collaborators. When we met, we were both at points when we were creating. We had similar vision, I would say. I would never say mentor.
Anyhow, I'm almost at a loss to introduce Dr. Reesman because it's kind of like opening up Pandora's box. She's done so much in our field. So I'm just going to say she's been what I'll call a practitioner leader for, I'm not going to mention how many years. She's truly a peer instructional leader. So she has done by now hundreds of PD workshops for people all over the place. She's presented with me just hundreds of workshops.
Work with Temple University and now working with Pennsylvania Council for Social Studies, who's also excited about this project.
She's written, written and published 24 books. Is that fair? Something like that, right? Hundreds of articles that have appeared in major publications like Middle Web, Edutopia, Educational Leadership.
A whole batch of places, but the main thing, which is what children get, is I'm a real teacher. I have retained that I'm in a classroom with children, seeing these things work and improvising off real children, real classroom. That's the main thing. And that's what I'm excited tonight to share with your real teachers who are coming to you tired from a real classroom.
So I should mention that you work daily at Miss Middle School in Kensington, Brooklyn, where you are an instructional coach. And what has always grabbed me about your work is that while you're not a technologist, you have managed to integrate technology in a very authentic way. And that's why you've managed to publish all of those things, because it's so appealing to our colleagues across the country and beyond, and easy for them to understand. I did mention this book previously, Teaching with Author Websites. There's her name above mine, really This was her concept. One of Rose's passions is finding all of these gem resources that authors, young people and children's authors put on their websites and their publishers put out. Yeah, from time to time, all of us hear of this stuff. Sure, Scholastic and some of the other big ones have some digital resources, but Rose has aggressively pursued finding them, locating them, trying them out, and integrating them into wonderful practices. And that's why she's here tonight. Well, over there on the left is a book. How long have you been aware of this book, Rose?
This book was published September 2023. I walked into Barnes and Noble and I was attracted immediately to the cover, brought it into school. So today is November 21st. You walk in places, something is going to hit you as a person that excites you. And then you should take that thing that excites you and you should put it into the classroom.
So one thing about Rose's practice is this is not exclusive, but she's very focused on high quality books that are put out for kids. In my mind, that's a very rich approach because there are some magnificent books put out on a continual basis. And we think teachers should make good use of them and all of the digital resources the authors and the publishers put out.
Those resources are free, Mark. When Mark used the term that I aggressively pursue those resources, yes, I aggressively pursue them, but it doesn't cost me any money. I simply take my fingers and I search out. Generally, when I read a book now, I then also look under the author, and then there's a Google search, and I look under videos to see statements that the author has made or book trailers, and I look under general news, and then I look under interviews. And that all takes me approximately 90 seconds.
Good point, and free is always appealing. So we're going to look at one of her projects, one of many that she's developed. To me, it's very interesting as someone who's an analyst of curriculum development. You know, she doesn't hop around. She's evolved her approaches semester after semester, you know, taking some risks, having some failures, having some wonderful successes, making discoveries, and I'll call it the instructional project, the effort we're going to look at tonight. She's actually doing it with how many classes at Ms.
I'm currently doing it with 120 plus another two. I'm currently doing it with 200 kids, which is a very good. If you're in a middle school, you can work with 200 kids because you have 5 classes or so, plus special groups who meet during club hours. But if you're in an elementary, you can also share it with your peer classes in 5th, 3rd, 4th grade and through the library. So there's always, and that's a good sample to field test if a project works well, because some classes will grab it more so than others. And the kids, by the way, are loving this, Mark, because they already asked me, where is it going to be exhibited and who am I going to be sharing it with?
Just to frame this, I'm giving her project a working title just for tonight. I'm calling it From Shoebox to Soapbox, technology-supported, book-centered project to foster literacy and social emotional learning. And for tonight, Rose, we're going to live with that working title. And I do want to point out that in my mind, this is a perfect example of what I'll call organic technology integration. I think I coined that term for this purpose. In other words, it's not like a literacy teacher who all of a sudden takes a left turn and starts doing tech stuff. This is very much the tech stuff adopted to extend and improve what would be done anyhow, and maybe make some new, really ambitious things appealing and possible. So we're in a course for technology integration, but a term that's cropped up a lot recently is hybrid learning. In other words, a blend of traditional hard copy print stuff and technology all together, and the teacher uses the one that makes the most sense for the need at hand. And this project is a collection of, I'll call it, orchestrated instructional practices. It's not just one, it's a whole bunch of things that all relate to one another, and the result is something really nice. And you were saying the kids are loving this and they're learning from it. And, the first time we met, I showed you Bloom's taxonomy, and one of the themes of the course is that technology makes hitting the higher order thinking skills much more possible. Even though you can decide if this is a literacy project or not, it's around a book, but all of this project is very literacy rich. And maybe you'll talk about this for a minute.
Okay, the 5 pillars of reading. Right now, I'm sure that all of you who are in an actual school have heard all about the science of reading, which actually existed long before this year, and the fact that now we have got to approach the science of reading. So there are 5 pillars. I sent Mark. There are many different diagrams of it, but the main thing to think about is that this project, phonemic awareness, as you all know, is just sounding out words, period. Phonics is putting together the sounds to make words. Fluency is when we speak the way we're speaking now and we're communicating, and vocabulary is the rich, nuanced words we're using, like hybrid lesson and organic technology project. And comprehension is when we understand what we're saying, and then we can go on to a higher level. This project, because it's based on a book, is doing all of that. And because it incorporates read aloud, which Mark is going to have me explain later, it incorporates that. This project is definitely fulfilling the science of reading. And this project is also fulfilling all the parts of literacy. And literacy, as you know, if you're in elementary school, everyone is a teacher of literacy through every subject.
That's perfect. And in addition to these 5 pillars, I mentioned the pillars of literacy last week or the week before: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And that's all throughout this project too. However, even though this is so literacy rich, I'm going to take us out on a limb, Rose, and say that the true focus of the project is social emotional learning. And it's the elements of topic relevance, authenticity, which this is about stuff in the real world, influencing your world, having an authentic audience. This is very much that upper tier of Bloom's taxonomy.
When I saw this title, Artivist, the Artivist is an arts activist who uses art to change the real world and to make positive changes. And his authentic audience is real children who are going to read it, and they're going to become artivists or activists. And yes, it's compelling to my real students because they've got real problems, and they're literally putting a golden paintbrush to it right now.
Good. So I wanted to talk briefly about the flow of the project, because if I'm understanding this, and I'm not at Ditmas with you, I'm down here in Florida, you touch on this periodically over a course of a few months. Is that fair to say?
Yes. At Ditmas, the real live Ditmas on 700 Cordelia Road, Brooklyn, we have a district. The whole district is focused on soapbox issues, which is a theme, and it's also in elementary schools, where the kids have to research, identify a real passion issue that concerns them, which could be litter, it could be deforestation, believe it or not, although they live in an urban neighborhood. It could be bullies in the school, it could be too much homework, it could be school safety, etc. And then they have to express themselves about the issue, plus research from two solid secondary sources, research about the issue, and then finally make a soapbox speech, which is literally a speech that they make in front of an audience in their school at a district event. They have to have, or they could have, art or some kind of a diagram. So, of course, this book worked in beautifully to that particular issue.
We will show some illustrations of all of that shortly. But before the start of this project, a little bit earlier in the year, the students are guided to identify themselves what I'll call a passion issue, right? An area of life for which they feel genuine concern and desire to pursue, informing themselves and ultimately make a difference. So to focus on that and identify themselves what their issue is.
I personally ask the children what they think about before they go to bed at night, what they, if they look forward to the next day with joy, or if there's certain things they fear and they would like either to deal with in some way or to change in some way. And because they're children, and those of you who are in elementary school, you know, kids' emotions are close to surface. They shared a great deal, and some of it was rather sad. Some of it was fears of street alone during the day, or walking home from school because of school safety, or being shot in the school because of the different things that they've heard. So that's how I got them to identify their issue. But some was happy. Some was that they felt that they'd like to go outside and look at nature and don't have enough time to do that.
And so, again, we have this book, which is called Artivism. And Artivism is the act of engaging in social activism through making art. What is a read aloud and what's its value?
A read aloud is where you read the book, but you train the student to read the book aloud to an audience. It could be an audience of peers. It could be an audience of younger peers. So a pull for children is, many children are already doing it. I asked them, what's a book that you read to your younger siblings? And many of them got plenty of younger siblings, or they have cousins or whatever. So a read aloud is where you look at a text, and the purpose of the text is to effectively involve audience as readers in the text. And they realize immediately that we're going to be looking not only at the words of the text for the read aloud, but we're going to look at the pictures or illustrations. And we are going to also ask the audience to find or identify clues or explicate the illustrations. A read aloud is interactive, meaning it's not the reader reading alone to be recorded, it's the reader engaging the audience with questions, or having the audience respond to the written text. So a read aloud is valuable because A, it authenticates the skill, the science of reading, where we've gone from phonics to phonemes, from phonemes to phonics to fluency, to vocabulary, to comprehension. We can do that, but it also engages. Reading is about reading to others, reading. And recently as Monday, we taped the children doing a choral read aloud for this book, and it's going to be shared with children in Pennsylvania through the Rendell Center for Civics Education. So the kids' read aloud is really going to have authentic value.
How are you going to facilitate the sharing?
Yes, we're going to facilitate the sharing. Mr. Zaffarati, who is our school videographer, did us, and we took the illustrations from the Artivist, and he photographed all the illustrations, which he's going to put into a Google slide, and then he's going to put our narration under the illustrations, and one of our students is going to explain what we're doing. And we actually modeled it after a read aloud that Rendell had, which was done by an adult lawyer who she took pictures of the illustrations and she read aloud. But the kids told me they think their read aloud is going to be more because they are real kids. The kids.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it too. So the read aloud, it's kind of like being a museum docent for the book.
Yes, that's a
you're
wonderful
sharing
metaphor, Mark. Yes, exactly.
So you'll be using Google Slides. So the kids will prepare their slides and they will speak from the slides, and you've got someone using simple digital video there, and then that will be somehow shared either probably online
on YouTube.
Good example of extending a basic literacy practice in the extreme by the use of technology. So I don't know how many of you got around to looking at this video. Dr. Rose sent us a link that I show you. But this is a very important piece of this, is it not? This is a YouTube video. The format we're going to call a video book trailer.
That's the term. And interestingly, for the audience there, although I'm a big movie goer, and of course I know what movie trailers are, it was only 5 or 6 years ago that I and Amanda Xavier discovered that the books we were teaching also had trailers. They're produced by the publisher. But what's important about this trailer, when I looked it up, as I looked up Nicholas with 2K Smith, is that he narrates the trailer himself. And that really lends it, because the children guessed when I showed them the pictures, they guessed who this child looked like who was on the cover, and they thought it looked like the author as a child. But when we saw the trailer, we find out who the child is, and the kids were thrilled to see the real author on this trailer. So it really lent quite a bit to it. And he also explains to us his background and why he's written this book, and the passion that he has for the idea that an artist can be a social activist by making art. It was perfect for the children, because part of our theme is we can change the world, children, one speech at a time, one piece of art at a time, and that's his thing.
Well, I enjoyed the trailer. I have a sense of what the book is. I'm just looking at the YouTube video, and it really was great to have the author share his book and the core concept with me and get me on board. I thought it was interesting, exciting, unique.
And also, I just want to say that our teachers, you can take any book you're teaching in your class, if you're an elementary teacher, and then you can look up the author, and you may find the author speaking, even if it's lengthy. You can do 3 minutes of it. The kids will be thrilled to see the author that they're reading about. Guess what the author looks like or would sound like. To see and hear the author is very exciting for the kids.
It's a good example because author study has been part of literacy for ages. It's only been relatively easy to make it pretty meaningful since the advent of technology, since all of this stuff has been available on the web.
I agree with you that it certainly lends a new dimension. And I, a reader from years, I now read a book, and immediately while I'm really reading it, I find a video of the author so I can see what the author looks like and talks like. And it's a wonderful way to make these books come alive for kids. They're written by real persons, and they can hear and see the real persons. This is a free way to really make it come alive.
What is this project? I mean, the kids have a passion area, and then you show them the book and you read the book and they watch the book trailer on YouTube, and then what? Usually
Well, and done.
it ends with a
And
book
then
report and done.
I have always done with kids. I'm interested in art. I am not an artist either. So I'm not a technology person. I'm not an artist, but I grew up as a person who was interested in arts, visited museums. So one of the artists I always loved was Joseph Cornell. And today, Mark, we showed the children in the classes Mr. Cornell and his boxes. And the children told us, yes, they had done dioramas when they were in elementary school. But we saw, as the children were looking and they examined it, they said, oh, they see some newspaper there, and oh, look at the material, and maybe this is the story he's telling. So we looked at those boxes, and then we gave out to the children boxes. Some were shoe boxes, but some were other boxes that were gathered from the school. If you're in a real school, your school gets boxes. They get boxes of books, boxes of stationery. Well, you don't let them throw it out. You repurpose those boxes. So we had one box for every 3 kids. And the kids, they looked at Mr. Cornell, number 1. Number 2, they were each given.
I'm going to stop you for a second. So where do you get pictures like this of artist Joseph Cornell's box? By the way, they're very shallow boxes. It's like a frame, maybe an inch or 2 thick, that hangs on the wall. Kind of like very clever, Rose, like the top of a shoebox. But where do you find these?
I went to my Google search and I put in Joseph Cornell box, and I and my colleague, Mr. Caradeo, chose the ones that we thought the kids could most relate to. And we only showed 2 or 3, but we had the kids analyze what they thought the artist meant by putting it in there. And we explained to the kids also that although we're going to do a project in this style, the children completing it doesn't mean that they're Joseph Cornell, who's a great artist, but it means we're doing things in his style using his materials.
By the way, I chose this one because it's text and object, which is very much what you want kids to produce. So what's the prompt? What do you tell them?
We looked at this box. So he said to the children, what you have to do, you've got to choose one focus for your box, decide what that is, and they have a planning sheet. Decide what your focus is, decide what quotes you want to use from your other speech or other quotes, decide what objects you want to represent, and we want to make them 3D. Most of the kids are folding under little tabs to make things stand out. So they're going to look at the box, they're going to decide on a theme, they're going to make a plan for the box. They're going to cover the box inside with, I brought them different wrapping crepe paper to cover it with. So they're going to cover it. They're going to decide on a theme. They're going to make a plan. I'm going to look at it and the other teacher to see if we think it's a workable plan, or talk with them and give them some other ideas. After they make a plan, they're going to construct. And the looks on their faces, we call this social and emotional learning. They smiled. There was a lot of happiness, and they started working.
So the students create their shoebox assemblage of elements, which could be photos, drawings, text, but this stands as their summation of what they've learned about their passion issue, as well as their informed feelings-based opinion, and importantly, their message to the world about it. And they present this to an audience. They may make suggestions to the audience about how they'd like to see them improve the world. That's some pretty heady stuff for, what is it, 7th graders?
7th graders, and it's also being done with 8th graders.
Well, I included this because it's emblematic of one approach you like, which is art and text, art and handwriting, The kids organize ideas, they move things around. It's words, it's literacy, and it's visual. So I'm going to move through this quickly because time marches on. But one of the things you do to prep these kids for reading the book is you provide them this, what should I call it, a cheat sheet, a vocabulary.
Well, it's vocabulary. That's one of the pillars of reading. And these kids are mostly from ESL families, English as a second language. So the vocabulary, as well as a literacy teacher of any subject, and if you're in elementary school, you want literacy across the subjects, it's important. And this gives them words to put into their writing.
So as a teacher, you know they're going to need this support, so you prepare it ahead of time. That's just basic, good plan ahead teaching. I like this bit at the bottom. You talk, what is Artivism? It's when people use art to make others think about and hopefully change the world for the better. Well said, Dr. Rose. Okay. And so here's another teaching artifact.
Yes, and this is a planning. Remember, the students can't just go, just like an author doesn't write the final draft of his book the first day. The students have to plan this out, and this gives them a sense of ownership. So this is really, they're gaining a portfolio of experiences. And it should be stated that in our soapbox competitions and on the MICVA's website, they show students speaking, and on the side is a mural or an artifact. So this is not just a side project. This is going to be integral to their presentation, and it's going to be, we're going to have a whole back montage of this when they speak in the school and at the district. The kids are really going to do this for an authentic audience with authentic feedback.
Good. So the technology allows them to have a real audience. It's not just their work goes home and gets put up on the refrigerator door with a magnet. Okay. And so here we have one example of a finished shoebox, right? A Cornell box. We get the idea that not only do you tell them they're going to create this thing and give them opportunities to envision time and plan and do a sketch that is prepared. They actually produce the artwork and then
a rubric for their speeches in our schools, and I know our working teachers in your class know we've got to have a rubric for everything. So perhaps I'll have this group design their soapbox, shoebox, soapbox rubric. But these are the kinds of things that we will be looking for.
So here, we're coming towards the end here. After completing this shoebox collage, students use, I'll call it a prompt illustration. Now, I should say that these, I'm going to show you two examples here. These are from a very similar, but not quite as fully fleshed out effort that you did last year or the year before, 2 years ago. But so just as this young lady is holding up a very simple poster and talking from that, you're going to do a similar thing where they will present their shoebox and explain what it is and why it means and what they hope the audience will do because of it. And so these two screenshots I took were from Mr. Caradeo's Flipgrid. Now it's called Flipgrid account, where he posted their video-based speeches. So maybe you'll just talk a little bit about Soapbox, the whole concept of Soapbox, and why it's a wonderful thing to bring it to life. Again, we used to make little speeches even when I was in middle school, but after this speech was done, it was gone forever, and now through the advent of simple digital video, this can be made to happen. Go ahead, Rose.
Digital video, we used Flip last year. Wonderful, because the kids, they weren't assigned these topics. They found the topic, they researched it, and they are illustrating it. So it's authentically no social and emotional learning. This is them, their interests, their strengths, their passions, the relationships with the world that they want to create, them showing empathy. This line, Earth is on Fire, is from Greta Thunberg. They studied her speech, and the fact that your house is on fire, they took that, they adapted it. So they own it, they find it, they own it, they speak it, they research it, they articulate it, art activism. They were doing that before I found the book. They found art, and this is really them. And they're able to share it. They're able to see it and screen it. Not all of them are thrilled with their voice quality and other things, but I explain to many people that that's just part of their age. And I explain to them about speaking up and about how in life, in all professions, and your elementary teachers, this can be a topic in a book. Books are about bullying, books are about racism, books are about self-identity. So this can be adapted to a book, to a social studies, to science lessons, because you in elementary are teaching all of these subjects, and it's owned, it's authentic, it can be shared easily. So you could even get yourself your own YouTube special channel, post these things and keep it private, and then invite others to come in.
I just want to say that when I look at the continuum of learning opportunities represented in all of this, going from the beginning of asking kids to think and reflect on what about the world they live in concerns them, to showing them a book which how should I put it, an artist, but a very articulate and convincing individual takes on his issues through his voice, and having them read the book and appreciate the book and follow what the book models in real life, evolve their own statement about what concerns them in the world, and presenting it to a real audience in the real world as a young attempt at making a difference through messaging. I think this is great learning. So thanks very much for joining us, Rose. I'll call you very soon, maybe tomorrow. For more student projects in this vein, please see my book, Creative SEL, Hands-on Projects to Boost Social Emotional Learning. Links in the show notes below. And if you feel you got value from this video, please give it a like, and please subscribe to this channel as a way to support and spread educational philosophy through YouTube. It'll be much appreciated. See the links in the show notes below.